Hi guys, I'm Anissa and I'm back with another video. Today it's time for my August wrap-up, also known as my notes wrap-up, because everything in August almost, with two exceptions, I read because of the notes. So I don't know if we should start out by talking a little bit about my experience with the notes, because I definitely struggled a lot this time around. I still read quite a lot of books, but I didn't complete my notes, and I was really frustrated when I realized that wasn't going to happen. But here is what I ended up finishing. In Ancient Runes, I didn't get anything because even though I read two of the books for it, I didn't read the book for the Acceptable. So the other two books that I read for this class didn't work for my notes. Then I got an O in arithmancy, which was great. I got an O in herbology, which was also great. And I got nothing in potions because I only ended up reading the book that was for the exceeded expectation prompt. So yeah. And then finally I got O in transfiguration and E in astronomy. So in general, it sounds like I did pretty well, and I did do pretty well. And then I looked into what I could do with what I had, and I can't do anything. There's not any of the other professions in the Harry Potter universe where you can use the classes and the stuff that I did complete, so I can't do nada. So yeah, I was really frustrated that I didn't complete it, and that I could do nothing with what I got. So yeah, I'm not happy, but I have sort of come to terms with the fact, and now I'm going to talk about the statistics of the notes. No, I'm going to talk about the statistics of August, because when you look into it, I had a pretty good reading month. So in total in August, I ended up reading 16 things. Let's call it things, because not all of it was books. And I ended up reading a total of 5,126 pages, with an average of 320 pages per book. In terms of genres, I read a good variety. I read 3 science fiction books, 5 fantasy books, 3 contemporaries, 1 paranormal romance, 1 magical realism, 2 mysteries, and 1 paranormal book. I didn't know how to classify it. Then in terms of formatting, I read 4 trade paperbacks, 9 audios, and 2 graphic novels or manga. In terms of length, I read 12 books that were novels, regular novels, and 2 were graphic novels or graphic trades, and 1 of them was a short story collection. In terms of age group, 10 of them were adult, 3 of them were YA, 1 was a middle grade, and 2 of them were kids books. In terms of publication year, I read 1 book that was published in the 40s, 1 from the 50s, 1 from the 60s, I really got back in time here, 3 from the 90s, 2 from the 2000s, 1 from 2010, 1 from 2015, 3 from 2015, 1 from 2017, 1 from 2018, and finally I also read 1 book from 2019. In terms of page length, I read 3 books that were between 100 and 199 pages. I read 3 books between 200 and 299 pages. Then I read 7 books between 300 and 399 pages, 1 book between 400 and 499 pages, and finally I read 1 large book between 700 and 799 pages. The longest book that I read in August was Fool's Quest by Robin Hobb. This comes in at 750 something pages. I didn't write it down, so I'll have to think of what I remember it to be. And the shortest book I read was Giant Days Volume 1, which is a graphic novel, and it comes in at 112 pages. And in terms of my series versus standalone reading, I read 10 books that were part of a series and 5 books were standalones. Of those 10 series books I started 2 new series. I made progress on 6. I caught up to 1, and I DNF'd 2 series. In terms of my ratings, I had 1 book that was 2.5 stars, 3 books that were 3 stars, 5 books that were 4 stars, 3 books that were 4.5 stars, and 4 books that were 5 stars. So I had a really good reading month in terms of my enjoyment of it, and I actually have an average rating of 4.06, and that is really high compared to normally where I'm at around a 3.7, 3.8. And last month I didn't have any 5 stars, and this month I had 4. Yeah, I'm really happy about that. So now let's get into the books that I actually did read, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them. The first thing I read was Interesting Times by Terry Pratchett. This I had to read before I could go on with the Newts, because I had to read the sequel to this, the next book in the Discworld series for the Newts, and I read them in the chronological Discworld order. This is book 17 in the Discworld, I think, and it is the 5th book following Rincewind, who is a magician. And I'm really enjoying these books. Rincewind is not my favorite in the Discworld, but it featured Twoflower, who is a quite a quirky, fun character that made it a little bit more fun. So I did end up enjoying it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I finished the next volume in Fullmetal Alchemist. This is volume 11, and this one was amazing. It had so much new stuff happening that I didn't see coming at all. Like, it took a real turn this time around, and I really, really loved it and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Super excited to read the next one, and if it wasn't because of the Newts, I would have finished the 12th one. So I'm hoping over the weekend here that I can read the 12th volume, and that's the plan at least. The next thing that I read was Giant Days Volume 1 by John Allison. This is the first in a contemporary type graphic novel series, which is the first time I've read that type. It follows these 3 college roommates as they're starting their college adventures, the first year of college. And it's really, really funny and quirky, and I enjoy the art style. However, I don't think the story was as great as I was thinking it was going to be, because of all of the hype that this series have gotten. But I am really interested in reading the next one, so I gave it 4.5 stars. And I do have the 2nd and 3rd volume, so I can read them pretty soon if I want to. The next thing that I finished was Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. This is the 2nd Terry Pratchett book of the month. It's exciting. This is obviously recently became a TV series, miniseries. I don't know how many episodes, but it was really hyped because of that, and I really wanted to read it before I got spoiled what was going on in this series, or in this book. But I really, really enjoy Terry Pratchett. I also sometimes enjoy Neil Gaiman, but it's a little bit more of a hit or miss author for me. I ended up really enjoying this one. It had a lot of fun moments. It was sort of a weird game with the gods or something like that, and there was a fallen angel, and a demon that had to work together in order to stop things. And Agnes Nutter, a witch who sort of had a prophecy that the world was ending and stuff. And these 2 people, they were really happy about living on Earth. So yeah, it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4.5 stars. The next book that I read was Fool's Quest by Robin Hobb, the 2nd book in the fits in the Fool trilogy. This is the last trilogy in the Realm of the Elderling series, and I am really coming to a close now, and I'm scared of what's going to happen. I love this series so much, and I really enjoyed this sequel. So many things happened in this one that I didn't expect. There were so many turns. Robin Hobb writes slow-moving books, so it's like, but she does write plot twists every now and then, and especially towards the end, her endings are always really, really epic. And I am really scared of what's going to happen to Fitz and the Fool in the next final book, because the way this ended was such a cliffhanger, and I'm scared. And but I still really, really enjoyed it and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Murder on Lenox Hill by Victoria Thompson. This is book 7 of the Gaslight Mystery series, and this series, in this one, is following a widower, Sarah Brand, who's also a midwife, and a Detective Sergeant Malloy, who works for the New York Police Department, and it's set in the 1800s. I really enjoyed this one. It was not focused on a murder mystery per se, at least not at the get-go. It was more of a mystery of what happened. But I enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next one I read was Dash and Lily's Book of Theirs by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. This is like the oldest book that I have on my TBR. One of the oldest books I'd had on my TBR. It's been there really for a really long time. But it was sadly also the book that I enjoyed the least this month. It is a Christmas type story, so I don't know if it would have been better if I wasn't listening to this around Christmas. If I was to listen to this around Christmas, but yeah, I didn't enjoy this one as much as I was hoping. I think I wanted more from it. It was sort of they had this notebook that they were writing theirs down, and they placed it different around the town, and so to the other one to find. And it was fun in that way, but it was just lacking a lot, I think. So I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. The next thing that I finished was The Demolished Man by Alfred. It was my TBR unwrapping book of the month, and this one also worked for the news. I haven't really said what they all worked for, but I really ended up enjoying this one a lot more than I thought I would. This is a science fiction book that was written back in the 50s, so it's a really old book. But I also really enjoyed it because there were so many things. It was really interesting, and it was sort of a thought police thing that it was sort of following a villain's perspective as well, which was weird. He did speak weirdly about women, but that is something that happens a lot in these older type books, and I don't justify it, but the way that this was written is why I give it a higher rating that I would usually do otherwise. But I did enjoy it and gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it has a lot of fun passages throughout the book. So like this, and it's going to be fun to reread it one day, I think, because it's not like it's like as if they were writing emails back in the 90s, you know? And I thought that was pretty fun. The next book that I read was And the Rest is History by Jodi Taylor. This was a really, really great book. This is the 7th book or 8th book. I think it's the 8th book in the Chronicles of St. Mary's series. The Chronicles of St. Mary's is following historians who travel in time. And this one was so good. It pulled on my emotions a lot, and I really, really loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I was so immersed in the story. Really loved it. And next up, I also finished The Faded Sky by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is the second and most recent book in the Lady Astronaut series. This is supposedly going to be a 4-book long series. This is the last book that follows Elma. Elma is a lady astronaut, obviously. She starts this training program in the first book to become an astronaut, and this follows a little bit more about what they're doing in space. I love this one. I really enjoyed this one. It wasn't as great as the first one in my opinion, but I still really enjoyed it and gave it 4.5 stars. The next thing that I finished was With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is 2019 release, and I read her debut novel last year, which was like a poetry type book, and I enjoyed that one. This one was different, but it follows this up and coming chef type of person. We follow this girl who is a single mom, and she became a mom really early in her life as a teenager, but she wants to become a chef, so she takes this program in Portugal or Spain to become this chef thing. And yeah, so it talks a little about her struggles as a single parent. But I ended up really enjoying it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next thing that I finished was Maskerade by Pratchett. This is the 4th or 5th book in the Witches series, and it is the 18th book in the Discworld series, and I really, really love this one. This is my favorite Witches book. I really, really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so great. I really loved Granny Weatherwax in this one. She was amazing. There were so many quirky moments also with death, and it was sort of the Witches goes into the opera scene type of book, and it was really fun. 5 stars. And next up, I read 5 O'Clock Tales by Enid Blyton. This is a short story collection with classic kid stories. It was kind of fun, but it was definitely more something that the intended audience would love, I guess. It was not as great as I was hoping, but I did enjoy it for what it was, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next thing I read was How to Howl at the Moon by Eli Easton. This was another one of those that I didn't really love. I thought it was interesting in the beginning, but I think that it took a little bit of a different turn towards the end that I didn't really like, and it focused a little too much on unnecessary stuff, in my opinion. So I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Endless Night by Agatha Christie. This is a standalone book that Agatha Christie wrote. It's the first time I've read anything by her. And it was definitely a really interesting book. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a nice introduction to her, because I did get to understand why a lot of people really enjoys her writing style. She has a nice writing style and a good way of characterize her characters. This one followed a male perspective, and it was sort of a gothic tale. It was not a mystery in the same sense that her private detective sort of books with Hercule Poirot and what's her name is Marble. But I'm definitely more intrigued to go and explore her longer series, but I might check out And Then There Were None first, because it's another one of those standalones, and see for sure if her writing style is something that I'd like to read more from. And the last and final thing that I read that I almost forgot to add is Isadora Moon Goes to School by Harriet Muncaster. I think that's how you say it. This was such a cute little kid story. It was only 40 minutes long in the audio. I was just having to read this to complete some of my notes. So it's a last minute thing that I read this. But I really, really enjoyed it. It follows this girl who is half vampire and half fae. And she wants to start going to school. She's like, I think 8 years old or something. 6, 7, 8 years old. I forgot. But she doesn't know where to go. And her mother wants her to go to Fae school because she is Fae, and her father wants her to go to vampire school because he's a vampire. And she tries out both, but she doesn't really fit in because she's neither a vampire and a Fae. She's a mix of both, so she doesn't fit in anywhere. So she ends up talking to some regular humans and becomes friends with them, and asks her parents if she's allowed to go to a normal school. And after a little bit of a reluctance, they finally agree that it's okay for her to just go to a normal humans, primary school, whatever you call it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm definitely going to check out more of this. This is the type of kid stories I really, really enjoy. It had some good messages, and it was just quirky and what I like in kid stories. So yeah. Let me know in the comments down below how you did on your notes, because I definitely didn't complete as many as I wanted to, but I did read a lot of great books this month, so I'm not super annoyed when it comes down to it. I'd almost forgotten that I'd read so many great books this month because I was so focused and determined to finish this. But yeah. Definitely let me know in the comments down below how your reading was going, and what was your favorite book that you read this month, and have you read any of the books that I have been talking about today? Also let me know about it, and what were your thoughts on them. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Goodbye!